Today, we will annotate as we reread the red balloon in order to better understand the story. The word annotate just means to record your thinking. Today, we're going to be recording our thinking about the positive and negative examples of relationships in our story. The first thing we would like you to do is set up a T-chart in your reading notebook. Open up to a clean page and create a T-chart or a 2-column chart. In the left-hand side, put a plus sign. This is where you are going to put all the information or evidence for examples of healthy relationships. In the right-hand column, put a minus sign, or this is where you're going to have all of the examples in places in the red balloon where the relationships were unhealthy. Pause the video to create this chart in your reading notebook and then continue to the next slide. Let's do some together. Let's reread a page of the red balloon and stop and pause and think about if there's any healthy or good relationships or unhealthy or bad relationships in this part of the story. Follow along as I read. The red balloon. Once upon a time in Paris, there lived a boy whose name was Pascal. He had no brothers or sisters, and he was very sad and lonely at home. Once he brought home a lost cat, and sometime later a stray puppy. But his mother said animals brought dirt into the house, so Pascal was soon alone again in his mother's clean, well-kept rooms. Then one day, on his way to school, he caught sight of a fine red balloon tied to a street lamp. Pascal laid his school bag on the ground. He climbed up the lamppost, untied the balloon, and ran off with it to the bus stop. But the conductor knew the rules. No dogs, he said, no large packages, no balloons. People with dogs walk. People with packages take taxis. People with balloons leave them behind. So now we want to go back and we want to annotate. We want to record our thinking about the relationships that so far Pascal has had in the story. So in our second paragraph, we do learn a little bit about him and his mom. And so by reading this, and the nice thing is when you're annotating, there is no right or wrong answer. So what I'm thinking may be different from what you're thinking and maybe different from someone else's thinking. As long as you can explain what you are thinking, then you can annotate that as a thought. So as I read this part, that he brought home a cat and he brought home a stray puppy because he was sad and lonely, but his mom said that animals were dirty and so she made him get rid of them, I kind of, when I read that, felt like that was a very unhealthy relationship because poor little Pascal, he's lonely and he's sad and he's only a child. And so he kind of just sounds like he wants a friend, but his mom will not allow him to have one because they are dirty. So when we're going to go back to our story, we're going to go back to our organizer, and we're going to record that thought. So that was on page 1. So on page 1, I think that Pascal and his mom have an unhealthy relationship because she will not allow him to have any pets because they are dirty. And I'm going to make that a little bit smaller so it kind of fits in there. All right, let's go back and look at keep reading. So we keep reading and we wind up finding that he winds up finding this balloon and he takes the balloon and then he meets this conductor, right? So he goes to get to the bus stop and the conductor or the driver says no dogs, no large packages, no balloons. And so, again, when I read that, I'm thinking that the conductor, although it is just somebody that he just met, they're definitely not going to have a strong relationship because The conductor is saying, you're not allowed to bring this balloon on the bus. You have to leave it behind. So I'm going to go back here. And again, that was also on page 1. So I'm going to label it again, page 1. And I'm going to put the conductor and Pascal, unhealthy because the bus driver will not allow the balloon on the bus. And the way he kind of said it also is kind of an indicator that they don't have a good relationship, because the way that he said it with the exclamation points and the forcefulness of no dogs, no large packages, no balloons, that tells us that he was being very stern and very strict. So today, friends, as you continue to read, you are going to be looking for places in the story where Pascal meets other characters, and you're going to be going back to your charts, and you're going to be putting the page number, and you're going to be listing why you put that part of the story down, that passage down, as being healthy or unhealthy. And make sure you put a little blurb as to why. That's very important. So it's going to be your turn now. I want you to think about relationships between the characters. So as you know, that a lot of times you can have healthy and unhealthy relationships between characters, and Pascal meets a lot of different characters in this story, right? We meet his mom, he winds up meeting the bus driver, and then the principal and the janitor, and then the boys. And so those are all relationships that Pascal has with other characters. I want you to pay really close attention to them and see if you would describe the relationship that he has with each of those characters as either being healthy or unhealthy, good or bad, strong or weak. But the other relationship that I want you to think about is the relationship that he has with an object. Sometimes characters can have a relationship with an object, something that's not real. For instance, many children have stuffed animals that they consider to be very close. They consider it to be kind of like a friend. So that is an example of kind of how a character can have a relationship with an object. In our story, Pascal kind of has an abstract kind of relationship with the balloon. And so I want you to think about that balloon and why that balloon is kind of like a friend to him. All right, readers, off you go.